Hey everyone, it's time to talk about goals again. Half the year is gone, so a perfect time to look at Q2 stats and goals and how I'm doing in general and what I want to do from here on out. So let's get into overall goals first, then reading stats and goals, and then life goals. My main goal for 2025 is to get out of survival mode so that I'm a little bit more flexible and free and less dependent on my habits and routines. Also less tired. Energy levels was a very big goal. And I'm doing okay. I feel more resilient than I have been for a long time. I feel I'm more flexible with my goals. I'm feeling better when going out and doing stuff. So that is doing okay. I also don't want to do a lot of stuff sometimes, so let's see how that is. But the goal was to have more energy and to be better. And in recent weeks, I have gotten more energy again, so that is good. Could also be that it's summer. I'm always better in the summer. We all know I'm a solar cell. As soon as the sun is shining, I'm a better person. So let's see how that goes in Q3. But overall, I'm quite happy how things are going. Something that has an effect on everything, but has not been planned as a goal anytime around this year, is that I started a new job in the middle of June. So for a few weeks now, I've been working in a different team in my department. I am having new tasks. I'm learning something completely new that I haven't worked with before. So everything is exhausting, which affects, first of all, this video. I had wanted to finally figure out to make nicer stats and graphs and things and graphics for my goals videos, but nope, no energy for that. I'm feeling better, but I don't have the energy to figure out long editing stretches. We'll just go with that. Done is better than perfect is still my motto for everything, even if I'm slowly crawling out of survival mode. So, having said that, let's move on and check in with reading. Reading stats first. My overall goal for books this year is once again 100 books, and I'm doing great on that. I have read 52 books so far, 30 of which were on audio, 15 were ebooks, and 7 were physical books. I would like to read more physical books, but currently I have less time to read when I would read physical books. So most of my reading is happening at night and not so much at daytime, when I would prefer a physical book. But at night, an ebook is much, much better because it's easier to fall asleep with the light out. Let's be honest there. Looking at pages and minutes, the overall pages I've read so far are 6,724, which averages about 1,000 pages per month, which is my usual happy place. If I read about 1,000 pages a month, I think I've done a good job at reading and made enough time or had enough time to read. That's good. Minutes, I even excelled. I listened to 19,412 minutes so far this year, which averages about 3,000 minutes per month and a little bit more. And I'm quite happy with that. I used to have 2,000 minutes as average per month for listening, and I was happy with that. But 3,000, I like that. Let's see how that is continuing for the rest of the year, if I can keep that up, or if that's going down to the 2,000 again, which would also be perfectly fine. One more stats to pages and minutes, and that's the average for every single book. So basically, I'm looking at the average page lengths that I'm reading or listening to for audiobooks. And last quarter, I decided I would like to aim for 300 pages per book. And I'm happy to say that the average is 280, which is a little bit higher than in Q1, which was 272. Okay, it's just a teeny bit, but it's higher. So I'm going in the right direction, picking longer books. With audiobooks, I thought 600 minutes would be a good goal to have. And that is nice. I'm at 626. So doing a good job there, and that's up from 526. So there is a bigger jump. I'm happy about that. But that's not all the stats I have. When it comes to DNFing books, I'm still bad. I only DNF'd 3 books this year, and that's 1 more than in the first quarter. So still sticking with books that I might not enjoy as much as I could and spending the time with them. But it is what it is. Which brings us to other things I wanted to focus on this year with my reading. One of my main goals, or something I really wanted to pay attention to this year when it comes to reading, was reading books I put on my wish list. Ever since I reduced my TBR, I stopped buying so many books and just used my wish lists more instead. But oftentimes I forget to buy the books from the wish list. So they're not in my house, but they are also not getting read. It's a little bit tricky. And I started counting or paying attention to which books I read were from my wish list. And I'm happy to say that that was 23 books, which makes 44% of my reading, which is really good. But I just noticed, looking at the stats, that I'm also tracking the books that I read from my TBR, meaning once I bought them and they're in my home or I own them, then I still count them as a wish list book. And if I don't read them immediately, they also count as a TBR book, which sometimes happens when I see a book in a sale, or if I see a book somewhere that I want to pick up and notice, oh, that's from the wish list, and then I don't read it immediately. So I'm not exactly sure how many books went from my wish list to my TBR, but I also think it's not that important. I'm reading the books from my TBR and I'm reading the books from my wish list. So I'm doing a good job here, because 40% were wish list and TBR books. That's good. Looking on, I also wanted to have the 20% reading for classics, nonfiction, and translations. And other things I'm tracking, not so much 20%, but the 20% for classics, translations, and nonfiction would be nice to have. And I'm not doing so well there. Nonfiction, I read 10 books only, which is barely 19%. Classics, I still only read 2 books, which is 3% now, since, in the first quarter was only 2 books as well, and 7% less books read. That's the percentage thing. But I like the percentage for looking at how much I'm reading of my reading. So classics, still need to focus on that a little bit more. Then translations, I'm also not doing good this year. I only read 6 books in translation so far, which are 11% only. I don't know what happened. Last year I read so many translations and I was really good in that. So not sure if that's to blame on my wish list now, or the mood I'm in. We'll see. But that's easy to catch up on. I still have 6 months left to reach 20%. Good for me. Then again, I'm also doing really good on my rereads this year. I've already reread 13 books, which makes a whopping 25% of my reading, which is nice. I like to reread. And I like that the desire to read new books doesn't stop me from rereading. So I'm happy with those stats. I don't really have a goal for those, but I'm happy with the amount of rereading I get done. I also changed the way I'm tracking series books this year. I'm not only tracking if it's a sequel or if it's a book in a series. I decided to track the first book, the last book, and in general, if it's a series book. So I read 3 first books in a series. I read 2 latest books in a series, which means I'm either on track with the series or finished it. And in total, I read 16 books that were part of a series. So it comes down to 30% of my reading being part of a series, which is good because that means I'm making progress on series books. So if I ever manage to put up a proper series tracker of which series I started and how many books I'm lacking still, that would be really good. The only series tracker I have are currently for the series I planned on finishing this year. Yeah, I'm way behind my plans. In my brain, I thought I could have read all the series books for the Discworld that I was lacking, all the books in the Husky and his White Catechism, I think that's the title, and all the books that I'm still missing in the Cosmere books. I didn't do well. I read 2 Discworld novels, which is not so bad. So that means I have 3 left. Doing good there. With the Husky and his White Catechism, I'm feeling a little about this series. It is so much about misunderstanding, and it's very repetitive. The last book in the series I read was the 4th one, if I remember correctly. there are still 5 left. And that one could have been a lot shorter with better editing. There was so much repetition in this one book that I kind of got bored and annoyed with the misunderstandings and that things aren't progressing. It's rather felt like torture for the reader because I don't really like misunderstanding that much. I don't like this slow progress when the story isn't progressing because we keep on repeating the same things and the same misunderstandings. So I am a little bit torn if I want to continue. I do have the next book that I need to read, but I'm not prioritizing it right now. So putting it on hold maybe for goals. We'll see how I'm doing in Q3, but I'm not prioritizing it. Other than the Cosmere books, I didn't do well. I did like the second book in the Stormlight Archive much, much better than the first one. And then I read the 2.5 in between book there, the Edge Dancer, and I really enjoyed that one. But the next book is 60 hours on audio, and I've been postponing that. Not the thing I wanted to do. So I definitely hope that in Q3 I'm going to pick up the Stormlight Archive again to make more progress on the Cosmere books. Because it would be nice to at least finish the Discworld and the Cosmere books this year, to not drag out the series any much longer. So wish me luck for that. And that's basically all the reading goals I have. I also started tracking authors that are new to me. So whether the author is a reread that I'm reading or whether I started reading new authors. And I managed to read 50% of my reading by authors I didn't know before. So that's nice. I discovered new authors. So reading-wise, I'm doing good. I'm really happy with my reading. I'm a little torn about what I'm reading because I would like to have less escapism fantasy and veer out a little bit more into literary fiction again. I've also noticed that a lot of the fantasy I've been reading this year was not queer as compared to last year's or the last years, more years than one, where a lot of my fantasy was queer. So once again, I don't know if that's my wish list, that I prefer to read all the queer books before I read all the straight books that are left now, but I'm not really sure how I want to deal with that because I'm not particularly tracking LGBTQIA books this year in my tracker, but I've noticed on Storygraph and in general when I read the books, I noticed that I've been reading a lot more straight romance than queer romance. So that's something maybe we'll change and keep an eye on, but not prioritizing it. Hoping it will happen automatically again. But that's all I have to say for reading. I'm doing good. Tell me how you're doing with your reading. If you want to leave now and don't care about the life goals, go ahead. Let me know what your goals are, how you're doing, and if you're achieving them, or if you're letting go of something, because you notice that it's not really a priority for you anymore. Let's talk books. And if you still want to hear about life goals, let's move on. Life goals, I already noticed in Q1 that a few things aren't working and I let go of goals. So there are not that many left. The energy goal and the overall getting myself out of survival mode, I'm noticing in recent weeks that I'm trying to track how I feel when I wake up. I find it very hard to rate things. That's why I hardly rate anything here. But I've decided on a general normal state or a more tired than normal state or more awake and rested than a normal state. My general normal state is pretty much I wake up tired. But I've noticed in recent weeks that more often I've been normal tired or a little bit more rested. Whereas in the beginning of the year, I was normal tired or exhausted. So that is an improvement, I'm happy to say. I don't know exactly where that came from, but I've tried not drinking coffee for a while, and I've been drinking coffee for a while again because it didn't make a difference. So coffee apparently just stops you from falling asleep. And falling asleep is not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is staying asleep and not waking up after a few hours. And after a few hours being done with sleep, because I can't fall asleep again. That's my biggest problem. Falling asleep, I'm good at that. I'm not good at staying asleep. So let's go down my list. I wrote down, I wanted to declutter and reorganize. And I started in Q1 on my kitchen and a little bit on my books, and I'm still working on my books. I don't think I will get any further in decluttering other things hugely, because the books are the biggest thing I want to declutter and sort through a little bit. So I've been slowly making my way through the bookshelf over there that you can't see, and over here are my other bookshelves that you normally see in the background. Those are the hardest parts because those are only English, and so far the main way for me to get rid or declutter books was to donate them to the neighborhood. We don't have free libraries, but in my part of town, it's very usual if you want to give away something, but you don't feel like throwing it away, you can put it on top of the trash cans and everybody who walks by can take it along. And that's just what I've been doing. I've been putting books out into the street and people were taking them with them sometimes. Most of them found new homes, and I tended to just go and throw the ones that were rained upon or not taken after a few days away, because a lot of the books were old and German and not very popular. So I have started to get comfortable with recycling the books, because it's no use giving them to a secondhand store to just force them to throw them away and recycle them. So I'm getting better at that. So I'm hoping that Q3 will see a lot more book decluttering in my other shelves, as I'm getting more and more used to getting rid of books. Interesting. I think I will make a video about the whole process. I don't have that much footage because I'm bad at filming things apparently and remembering to save them, but I do have a lot of thoughts. Q3, continue decluttering books. Aside from not drinking coffee, I've been trying or experimenting with not eating chocolate every evening for dinner and having other dinner options. And last quarter I said I wanted to try a protein shake meal thing as an alternative, and I got that and it didn't work. I noticed that the shake thing, it did its job. I felt full, but I wasn't satisfied. I noticed that I want to eat. That's my biggest problem. I want to eat. I don't want to cook. I don't want to think about it. And I definitely don't want to really have a big thing and it be expensive. But I do want to eat, the act of eating. So the meals don't work, the liquid meals, but I've noticed that if I have a proper or bigger dinner, I want less snacks. So eating chocolate or wanting chocolate on the couch is less when I'm eating much. So I still need to figure out how to have a bigger repertoire of quick and easy dinner dishes that I can make. So I'll keep working on that. There's no real recipe, strategy, or anything. It's just trying to make myself eat proper dinner without spending a lot of money by going out for dinner every evening, which I can't afford anymore. So let's talk about exercise. I finished Q1 with a performance analysis for my running and a 12-week running plan. I finished the running plan, so now I can run how I want again. And I've decided that I want to keep the general idea of the running plan going. So the main idea is to run in different heart rate zones to improve the overall performance and endurance. And the majority are slow runs, so I still want to keep my Saturday slow run for a longer distance, but the running plan went on to 15 kilometers, which was a large time commitment, and also my knees didn't like that so much. So I am going to aim for around 10K long runs. That's what I like. I also have a medium pace run, which is shorter. So I'm looking at maybe 3 kilometers once a week before work, and then an interval run where speed or sprinting is the goal. And I want to do that once a week as well. I'm feeling happy about that. I'm feeling good about the running. And in a few weeks, I want to contact the place where I did the performance analysis and see if I can have a follow-up appointment to see if all the data changed. Which brings us to the gym and the sad effects there. Now, when I joined the gym, I had various goals. One was to go out again and have access to a sauna. I also wanted to do more classes. So far, the classes don't really work for me. Going to the gym and going to the sauna, that works. That worked from the beginning, even though I was very anxious in the beginning to go to the gym, but I'm feeling much better and more at ease with going. I don't have to overcome anxiety every time anymore. I don't say I'm feeling very comfortable at the gym, but that's a different story. But I can go and I can do my thing. Most of the time, though, I did some circuit machine thing. They had there, it's a fixed circuit. You sign in with your card and you move through 8 machines and they adjust themselves. And they also tell you which one to go next. And you don't really have to wait for anyone. You don't have to change anything about the machines. It's very low effort. The machines, you can increase the weight and do stuff. And I thought I was doing well with that because it had different muscle groups that it attacked, and I thought it was a roundabout training. But the gym also offers a body scan, and I had one when I started, and 6 months later I can get another one. So I went and had that, and I didn't have any changes. I was very frustrated because the main goal I wanted to have is at least see a difference. Because if I'm paying to go to the gym and I'm going and putting in the time and effort of doing something different than I used to do before at home, then I would expect some kind of changes, especially with that circuit thing. I'm not a fan of machine workouts. I like free weights and classes and all those things, but the machine things, they're probably effective, I thought, but no, they're not. So a few weeks ago, after I digested the very, very, very bad sadness after the disappointment, I decided to skip the circuit training with the machines and go twice a week and have some functional training or free weight, plyo box, blah. There's an area where you can do different things. And I put myself together 2 different workouts that I'm trying to follow. And I want to see if that has an effect or not. And I am slightly thinking about leaving the gym once I get out of the contract. I have a 1-year contract, and that would be in November. But then I would probably want to have easy access to a sauna again because then it's winter again. So it's not fully decided. But I am rethinking the gym idea. And I'm also thinking if I look into different scales where you can, the body scan did basically muscle mass scanning. And I think you could get that for yourself, like that you can find scales that can do that are not super expensive, but I'm not sure if they are good and if that's a good thing to do, to have at home, or if that will make me obsess about it. I haven't decided. But that is something I'm thinking about currently, connected to the whole thing that I thought I could finally do something about my weak back and my back aches and back problems. But I've been basically mostly doing back exercises and nothing changed. Nothing. Even the not eating chocolate for weeks and months didn't have any effect on the visceral fat, that is a toxic fat that the machine showed that I apparently have, that of course I don't want to have because it's bad for you. And that's it. That's all the goals I'm currently having. Like I said, I started a new job, so I decided to take things a little bit slower because learning something new at the job is rather more exhausting than I expected. And I forgot how disappointing or sad it feels to not know what you're doing. A lot of the time at the new job, I'm not really, or I don't feel competent and useful yet because I don't know all the tasks and I don't know what I can do on my own a lot. So this is a feeling I don't like, but it's an interesting thing to do because it reminded me why I'm staying at the company and staying in a 9-to-5 job instead of looking for something else. So I basically have 3 things I want to focus on in Q3, which is decluttering books, testing out new recipes and things to do for dinner, and also figuring out the exercise things, seeing what I can do, see if I can have any changes in the muscle groups that I'm attacking or targeting right now, and make decisions on what I want to do with the gym or exercise in general. I think that's enough. Mostly, I noticed that something I really don't want to focus on at all is going out and doing stuff, or rather, the being social stuff. I noticed that I don't mind traveling or going places, but a lot of times I don't feel like doing anything. Currently, I feel a lot like going home after work and just lying down and watching series. So I'm allowing myself to do that. At least for a while, I don't want to be judgy about myself, which I can do very well, that I'm watching so much Netflix or whatever. And yeah, I will try to enjoy things a little bit more. Because at some point in Q2, I realized that I forgot that getting out of survival mode was also the goal to enjoy the things I'm doing more, and not just the goal to be more able to do more. I want to enjoy the things I'm doing again. I don't want to just do them because I generally want to do them and don't feel sad that I don't do them. But I want to have fun again. And always beating myself up or trying to do more and more and more is not the right way. I can be nicer to myself and enjoy what I actually want to do. And if that is isolating and being home alone, then so be it. I think I'm getting comfortable and fine with that for the while. If it starts to bother me, I can still change it. Okay, that's been much more to edit than I would like. Thank you all for watching, especially if you stayed this long. Thank you for being interested in how I'm doing, what I'm doing, and the general things I'm trying to improve on. Let me know how you are doing. How are your goals? Are you looking back at the first half of the year and thinking, I'm making progress, but I don't think I want to go the way I planned or set out in the beginning of the year? Which is fine. We can change our goals. Goals are not set in stone. We can just drop them and replace them with things that we feel much more happy about. Let me know in comments how you're doing. And thank you for watching.